Peter Navarro, just out of prison, takes us deep into his new book, The New MAGA Deal, on this episode of United Patriots Uprising with Gary Binford. I'm your host, Gary Binford. Thanks for joining us. This podcast is available at radioinfluence.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. The video version you can find at YouTube, Rumble, and Conservative Television of America. Either way, please subscribe, leave a rating and a review. And if you click on that notification button, you'll be notified every time an episode airs. Peter Navarro is one of only 3 people who started with Donald Trump in 2016 and was still standing when Donald Trump left the White House. Very, very faithful man, very loyal man. And he proved his loyalty with the January 6th committee that tried to get him to turn on our president and say things that weren't true, invoked the rights he knew he had, and refused to give him what they wanted and served 4 months in prison. Great patriot, Peter. And he's out and he's ready to talk about it and about his new book. Ready to find out? Well, let's get into it. He's a scholar, professor, author, sought-after public speaker, and frequent guest on TV political talk shows. Seeing him speak at the Republican National Convention truly uplifted me, and I truly mean that, being that he had just gotten released from prison. I welcome back to the show the author of the new book, The New MAGA Deal, Mr. Peter Navarro. Peter, thanks for coming on, and boy, you're some patriot.
Well, congratulations on your show. It's freedom's a good thing. It's been a while, and I'm happy to be out. When I did, I was just really heartened by the warm welcome I got on stage at the Republican National Convention. Yeah, I was gone for 4 months with very little access to the outside world. I had no idea if people even knew who I was. And when I got on that stage and people really embraced me, it was great. And I think the message that night is an important one for me to share. I went to prison so you won't have to. I think besides Donald Trump and his trials and tribulations, literally, I'm probably the best poster guy for the weaponization of our justice system by the Democrats for political purposes, including election interference in the 2024 presidential race. As I said on stage at the RNC, it took all 3 branches of the federal government under the control of Democrats to put me in prison. And that's frightening when they control everything. As I said at the convention, if we don't control our government, their government will control us. And so I had a Democrat-controlled Congress hold me in contempt for what? Defending the constitutional separation of powers. I had Merrick Garland, a Democratic Attorney General, prosecute me for an alleged crime nobody had ever been charged with in the White House. And we had a judge, this guy, Ahmed Maida. His analog is in New York, Juan Marchand. These are Democrat judges, and they're politicians in black robes. Like Marchand, Ahmed Maida stripped me of every possible defense before I went to a jury. And the worst thing they did, I think, from a moral point of view, was for this Maida guy and a couple of appeals court judges named Cornelia Pollard and Patricia Millett to refuse to allow me to be out of prison while my appeal to the Supreme Court would be processed. That's kind of the norm. But I'm here with you today. I want to talk a little bit about this weapon here. This is a weapon. A penny is mightier than the sword. This is the New MAGA Deal, published by Don Jr.'s publishing house. You can go see it at newmagadeal.com, newmagadeal.com, or on Amazon. And here's why the book's important. It does, first and foremost, outline 100 actions in 100 days within the context of 37 chapters that show unequivocally what the polls show, that Donald Trump's policies are strongly preferred to the policies of Harris Biden. And I'm preaching the secular gospel here of MAGA, that we need to run this campaign on policy. We beat them on policy. We do not want to get sucked in to the personality contest that Harris wants to drag us into. It's going to be orange man bad, abortion, abortion, abortion on their side. That's all they have. What we have is every salient issue in the polls breaking our way. You look at it, we got double-digit leads when it comes to inflation in the economy and border security. It's an astounding lead when it comes to foreign policy, just in general with communist China, imperial Russia, the Rocket Man in North Korea, and the mullahs of Iran, but also with Israel and Russia in Ukraine. Law and order in our cities, again, we triumph here. And Harris is so vulnerable in all of these. She's a lawyer who knows nothing about economics, who's embraced Bidenomics, which is destroying the poor folk and middle class with inflation. She was given the opportunity by Biden early on in Biden's term to help secure the border. She turned tail and ran on that. On foreign policy, Kamala Harris has absolutely no experience. On law and order in our cities, she was leading the call to defund the police and supporting BLM and the rioting by Antifa and the burning down of our cities at the time. She is up front and center in the weaponization of our government. And of course, she's the queen of the woke, whether it's at the Pentagon, in our corporations, our K through 12 schools, or these men competing in women's sports, which she embraces with all her pronouns. So we win on policy. The new MAGA deal explains what our policies are. The polls say we win. And I say we campaign on that and get away from all this personality stuff, even though she's not a very appealing personality.
Right. Peter, one of the things that's scary to me, having been involved in this now nowhere near as long as you, but having been involved for a few election cycles, we always win on policy. We've won on policy for 50 years. The problem is, it seems that Republicans run on policy and Democrats run on winning elections. It's almost the difference between a judge. A judge decides what is right and what is wrong in a courtroom. A lawyer doesn't care what's right and wrong. He's only interested in winning its case. So how do we use policy against another side that couldn't care less about their policies, because we know their policies stink? All they want to do is win, and they don't care how they go about doing it.
Well, the most important word in politics is pivot. When they come at us with Orange Man bad and they attack Donald Trump's personality, this, that, and the other thing, I mean, by this time, it's like it doesn't matter at one level. Or when they come at it with the mantra of abortion, 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 which after the Supreme Court's decision has really made that a state's issue rather than a presidential election federal issue, we just pivot and start going down through her list over and over again. Let's take basic economics. That's kind of that's what I did for 25 years teaching, and then what I did in the White House. It's like you take a clip of Harris with her full-throated support of Bidenomics. She doesn't even know what Bidenomics is, but she supports it. And then you just look at what's happened to the inflation rate and say something like, in Trump's America, you didn't have to choose between food on the table, medicine in the cabinet, or a roof over your head. We win on that. People are hurting right now. It's the cost of just having a roof over your head is going off the charts, food on the table. It's crazy stuff. We win on that. We didn't have that problem during Trump's first term. They created. Then you go to the border issue. You can talk about how she was derelict in her duty. She was given one significant thing to do in 4 years. That's it. And she refused to do it. And 8 to 10 million, we don't even know how many illegal immigrants came in. And all you got to do is read the papers. It's the rape and murder of young women, the drug cartels, the human trafficking. We've got Islamic terrorists coming in, communist Chinese military age spies and infiltrators, and millions. See, this is the one that's really important on border security economically. Millions of illiterate, illegal aliens coming into our labor market, and the Harris-Biden bureaucracy statistics tell us that Americans are losing jobs to illegal aliens by the millions. And so, think about that. A key portion of the Democrat base is black, brown, and blue collar Americans. We got a lot of them in 2016, the Trump Democrats. We should get a lot of them again this time around, if for no other reason than the border security and the foreign policy. Come on Israel, she's an anti-Semite. She's sided with Hamas and the Palestinians, the just a complete obliteration of Israel. And on other matters, you can't send her to negotiate with Russia or China or North Korea or the mullahs of Iran. They'll eat her for lunch. It's just, you have to have some experience there. So this is how you do this. Whenever the issues come up, whenever you're talking, whether you're on TV, radio, or out in the street, or at the kitchen table, or in your workplace at the water cooler, these are where, she's like in Pennsylvania. That's a key state. She doesn't want fracking. Okay, fine. That's your position. It's what Hillary Clinton did in West Virginia. Oh, we're gonna end coal mining, and you're gonna become computer programmers. Kamala Harris, same mistake. Pennsylvania, ban on fracking. The funny thing is, she's trying to walk back through this stuff.
Right.
Corporate media is helping her. It's like, and that's disgusting in and of itself. But the clips don't lie. Like Shakira, the hips don't lie. Well, with Kamala, it's the clips don't lie.
I hear you. Peter, before we get a little bit deeper into the book, you've been around President Trump and MAGA for a while now. So can you tell us what the 4 years were like with the president and MAGA in the White House, what the 4 years have been like since these are 3 years since he's been out, Trump and MAGA, and what you see that Trump and MAGA has to do to get back in the White House to put these policies that he wants to put back in order?
It's a very stark contrast between Trump's America and the Harris world, the kind of Californication of America, as we used to say back in California when they were wrecking our cities like San Diego and things like that. If you contrast, if you think about history, you had the Statue of Liberty welcoming the poor and huddled masses. In Kamala's world, they rolled out this woke blue carpet across the Rio Grande. Really, and this is to the worst collection of trash. It's the people coming across our border are simply dangerous. You didn't have that in Donald Trump's America. In Donald Trump's America, you were safe and the border was secure. You take something like the green sham deal, as Republicans like to call it, and contrast that with the New Deal of FDR. We had the Hoover Dam, the Tennessee Valley Authority, and the electrification of America, FDR's New Deal. What we have with Kamala's Green New Deal is simply the offshoring of America's auto industry, at least what's left of it. In Trump's America, we worked very hard to rebuild our auto industry. And then there's the whole thing about, I mean, the Federal Bureau of Intimidation is what I like to call it, because they did send 5 armed FBI agents to arrest dangerous me. I mean, look at how dangerous I am, right? Put me in leg irons. But look, if they can do that to me, they can do it to you. And look, it's like if you go to a school board meeting now and speak up and say, hey, we would prefer reading, writing, and arithmetic to prepare our children for a competitive global environment, to the woke kind of gender curriculum you got going on now. And next thing you know, you got the FBI knocking on your door and accusing you of being a domestic terrorist. I mean, and look, just remember what happened, particularly during the first 3 years of the Trump administration before the China virus turned everything on its head. Zero inflation, strong employment, rising real wages, communist China not invading anybody, Imperial Russia not invading anybody, Rocket Man in North Korea not shooting off any rockets, the mullahs of Iran relatively docile compared to the adventurism they're engaged in now. So, like, why would you want to live in Kamala Harris's world unless you're one of these woke liberals with a lot of money and you're like in California in some gated community where this stuff doesn't touch you? I mean, that's kind of her world, kind of the Napa Valley kind of liberal California Democrats that were her power base in California. So what I try to do, again, the new MAGA deal, this for me this is it. This is Trump world, newmagadeal.com. That's the website. The subtitle, The Unofficial Deplorables Guide to the Trump 2024 Platform. What I like about this book, too, is that it has contributions from a lot of former Trump officials. Rick Grinnell does a very beautiful chapter on foreign policy. We got Dave Bernhardt, the former Department of Interior Secretary, talking about strategic energy dominance. Russ Vogt on the fiscal cliff that Biden's created. And the other thing the new MAGA Deal book does, which I think is important, is it defends ourselves against the criticism that MAGA is somehow something other than a mainstream movement. I mean, if you think about what MAGA stands for, Make America Great Again. Oh, wow. Extreme, isn't it? No. Going back to 2016, the doctrine of MAGA, which President Trump used to win then, was 3 simple things grafted onto traditional republicanism. It was a strong manufacturing base onshore in America through fair trade and Buy American. It was a secure border, both for national security and economic reasons. And it was an end to the kind of endless wars that we had in hellholes like Iraq and Afghanistan. That's it. That's the essence of MAGA. I don't know why we let them turn MAGA into a 4-letter word like they've been doing when they're the ones who are the extremes. I mean, the kind of gross overspending they're doing, the kind of social engineering policies they're allowing, including this men competing in women's sports and indoctrination of our youth and our K through 12, woke DEA policies in the Pentagon instead of combat readiness. I mean, come on, that's extreme. If you asked, in fact, I did this. I was giving you, this is kind of funny. I was giving a speech. There were like 1,000 people there. I go, how many people support men competing in women's sports? There was one person who raised their hand. 1 out of 1,000. I said, you know what? That's about right. Yet the Democrats, with Kamala Harris at the top cheering on, embrace those kind of policies. That's not, we don't want to turn Wisconsin into California. We don't want to turn Michigan into California. Pennsylvanians don't want anything to do with being Californian. The places where this election will be won and lost in the battlegrounds, every single one of those states, they don't want to be Kamala Harris's California, but that's what she represents. So, new MAGA deal, newmagadeal.com. I'm trying to just get the message out, and there it is.
Peter, I really appreciate you coming on. Before you tell people where they can get the book and how to reach you, I would be remiss if I didn't ask your opinion of the horror, what we saw of the assassination attempt of our president.
That was my worst day in prison. I spent 120 days there, and that one was just by far the worst. I was in a room, I don't know, 50 by 50 foot room that had the computers and a TV bank and a ping pong table and all sorts of stuff, inmate stuff in there. I was actually working on my speech, and I looked up and I saw the venue before the shots were fired, and I'm looking there and I'm going, that doesn't look right. It looks like a little bandbox, if you know that term, because I've been to so many rallies, I'm seeing like trees, big stand of trees in the background, thinking snipers. Then they pan around, very small area, and then they got rooftops. I'm thinking, this isn't good. Don't love this one at all. And then I went back to work, right? Next time I look up is when things start to get way too interesting. I see the shot that I mean, good God, God was watching over that man when that shot was fired.
Amen.
Because if you tried to replicate that, you could take 1,000 shots and not be able to do that shot without doing more damage or missing completely. Okay? And I knew he was hit. He bounced right up, fight. But I'm thinking to myself, they need taller Secret Service agents, because they should
have blown his head off. Yeah.
That's an iconic photo. I mean, who knows, if there was a second shooter, he'd be dead. So,
right.
And I look at what the Secret Service did, and you got to wonder whether the hesitation in responding to that threat had anything to do with just letting it happen. I mean, you have to ask that question.
Absolutely. Because
these are highly trained individuals. And for them to have an active threat 15 to 20 minutes in advance of them even taking the stage, when the first rule is clear the rooftops, and the second rule is don't let him on stage if there's an active threat. And then you see the sniper with one shot who actually got the guy. He's in a video, he kind of looks up, looks back down, and then the shooter gets off 8 shots before that guy takes him out. It just doesn't ring true. I mean, I think every one of those Secret Service agents needs to be put under a lie detector test and ask some tough questions to figure out what their mindset was. And,
I am with you.
If they're incompetent, they should be fired. And if there's something worse than that, well, that's a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah. They can take your prison cell. Peter, I really appreciate you coming on, and I am really looking forward to giving you a hug and shaking your hand on the 14th of September, because you will be coming in my area to the America First Warehouse on Long Island. So I'm really looking forward to that event. Before you go, please tell people how they can reach you and where they can get your book.
Sure. The newmagadeal.com. That's the website. The book is the New MAGA Deal. The website is newmagadeal.com. You can also get the book, of course, on Amazon. If you got that Prime membership, comes right away. And simple as that. I'll look forward to seeing you on the 14th, my friend. And less than 100 days now. Just win, baby, win. And
win, baby, win. Let's get this party started right. Thank you, Peter, for coming on. God bless you and your family.
God bless you, sir. I look forward to shaking your hand when I get there.
Okay. There you have it,
All right.
everybody. Peter Navarro, a great patriot, a patriot that would not sell his president out, would not lie, and understood what his constitutional rights are, and what they did to him was unconscionable. But they will eventually pay a price. I want to thank Peter Navarro for coming back on the show. He had been on previously right after President Trump left the White House when the show was audio. And I'm glad he came back this time to tell us about what he's hopeful the future will look like with the new MAGA deal, with Donald Trump getting back in the White House and instituting policies, America First policies, to help make this country great again. And in regard to the book, this is what one person had to say. Quote, Peter Navarro had strong views on protecting our economy against the assault from foreign countries all over the world. He was an absolute master at not allowing the U.S. to get ripped off by this onslaught. Peter did his job well, he did it faithfully, and he loved our country. His book should be studied, and what he says should be highly respected. Peter Navarro is a patriot who has been treated very badly, but he continues forward. In the end, there will be victory. And that is from President Donald J. Trump. So, Peter, thank you for who you are. Thank you for what you do. And keep up the good fight. Don't let them grind you down. This podcast is available at radioinfluence.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Hope you subscribe to it, leave a rating and a review, and be sure to tell your friends about the show. The video version you can find at YouTube, Rumble, and Conservative Television of America. In either case, please subscribe, leave a rating, leave a review, tell us what you think about the show, and hit that notification button so every time an episode drops, you will receive it. We also have an audio version. If you go to radioinfluence.com or if you go to the United Patriots Uprising page on radioinfluence.com, you will find all the audio versions where there are more than 175 high-profile guests who have been on this podcast, many of them more than once. Here's just a few. Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, Christina Bobb, Ben Carson, Clay Clark, Brandon Tatum, Monica Crowley, Pastor Jack Hibbs, Gene Ho, Tom Holman, Mike Lindell, Lucretia Hughes, Dick Morris, Judge Janine Pirro, Carrie Lake, Kevin Sorbo, Carol Swain, Michelle Terrace, Ron Vitello, and Naomi Wolf. Many more there. And what they had to say then is just as valid today because we are still in this mess. But hopefully we're about to get out and once again make America great again. Well, that's it for now. So until the next time, this is your host, Gary Benford, saying God bless you, God bless your families, and God, please bless America.